Pinchas Pinchas Tavshin Pei Hey. We're now almost, we're a couple of days already also into the Bein HaMetzarim. So this time of the year, aside from the Parshios of the week, we'll speak a little bit. We'll try to get into every shir a little bit the inyan of Bein HaMetzarim, what it means to us, what we could do, how we could improve ourselves, and we'll try to blend it in with the Parsha. Let's see how successful we are. And the beginning of our Parsha tells us something very interesting. Parsha tells us that because of Pinchas, Bnei Yisrael in the Midbar, they were saved from destruction. Pinchas, as we know, saved Klal Yisrael. And for doing such an heroic act, of course, Pinchas would deserve a huge reward. Imagine, Pinchas, he saved the whole Klal Yisrael. Kadosh Baruch Hu, they got a kapara. Kadosh Baruch Hu was willing to continue with Klal Yisrael because of Pinchas. So, of course, he's due a very, very big reward. And the Torah lets us know, the Torah tells us what this reward was. And that's the beginning of our Parsha. What was this reward that Pinchas got for saving the entire Klal Yisrael? Pinchas received the gift of Shalom, the gift of peace. And what a reward that must be. And we have to try to understand a little bit. For saving all of Klal Yisrael, tremendous reward, he gets Shalom. So what is Shalom? And Shalom must be something ultra tremendous. So really, that's from our Parsha of this week. That's something, let's call that chapter 1 that we want to speak about tonight. And now, let's extend what we're learning in our Parsha about Shalom to our time of the year, to this time of the year of Bein HaMetzarim. And if Shalom is such a great thing, and it obviously is a great thing, if that's what Pinchas got, how bad and destructive is the flip side of Shalom? Right? If Shalom is fantastic and Shalom is a great reward, the greatest reward we could have, how bad is it when we don't have Shalom? The flip side of that, the advent of Machloikis. So if Shalom is over here and it's at the top of the hill, Shalom is what we're given as a reward. It's HaKadosh Baruch Hu is obviously saying Shalom is so important, it is vital, it's unbelievable. The other end of that spectrum, unfortunately, is when there's Machloikis, when there's no Shalom. And as we know, we've mentioned a few times over the years, the Gemara, Masechta Yuma, Daf Tes Amud Beis, we actually spoke about it a couple of weeks ago also. The Gemara famously tells us that the Bayis Rishon was destroyed because of the transgressions of the 3 serious Averos. Gili Arayas, Avodah Zarah, Shvichas Damim, very serious Averos. And because of that, Bayis Rishon, the first Beis HaMikdash was destroyed. But the second Beis HaMikdash is a totally different story. The second Beis HaMikdash was Nechrav because of Sinas Chinam. Sinas Chinam. How do you understand that? So you tell me on one hand, the first Beis HaMikdash, because of the 3 Averos, that a Yehareg V'al Yavar, person has to really give up his life not to be over those Averos, and that caused the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. Okay, that we could understand. But how in the world does Sinas Chinam, which is really, I'm not to minimize Sinas Chinam, but the truth of the matter is that the Isra of Sinas Chinam is a lav in the Torah. Like Sisnes Achicha Bilvavecha. Because of a lav in the Torah, that causes the Churban Abayis. The Beis HaMikdash is destroyed, and it goes even further. not only was the Beis HaMikdash destroyed because of Sinas Chinam, we're still in Golus because of that. The first Beis HaMikdash, after 70 years, they went back. They were able to build the Bayis Sheni. But when it comes to the last Korban, the Korban of Bayis Sheni, we are now very, very close to 2,000 years. It's almost 2,000 years, and we're still in Golus. So not only do we put in Sinas Chinam on par with the Gimel Averos Chamuros, Sinas Chinam must be even a lot worse. Almost 2,000 years, and we don't even see any end in sight. And as we mentioned, until we straighten out this problem of Sinas Chinam, until people learn to love every Yid and not to judge a Yid who's a little different than you, and he has a little different minhagim than you, he might dress a little different than you, he lives in a different place, he sends his kids to a different school, whatever, sorry to say the word, dumb excuses you want to come up with, that's Sinas Chinam. You dislike a person because of that, because he's a little different. Maybe he's right, maybe you're wrong, right? You ever think of that? Just because you and your father and your grandfather did something, maybe they have it right. We're not going to judge. We're not going to say who's right and who's wrong. But definitely we see that not only is the Korban of the Bayis Sheni of Sinas Chinam, not only is Sinas Chinam such a terrible thing, it has to be that it may even be a lot worse than the Averos that caused the destruction of the first Beis HaMikdash. And the Maral says, very interesting Maral, in Derech Chaim, in Pirkei Avos, Perek Aleph, the Maral says that Machlokes is not a new thing. People think every time there's a Machlokes or something that you're reinventing something. Maral tells us that when the world was created, this world is called Alma de Pruda. It's called a world of machlokes, a world of separation. So if we just go on autopilot, if we just do nothing, the default for this world could be that it's separation, that it's machlokes. That's why if we want Mashiach to come, if we want to build the Beis HaMikdash, then we have to do proactive things. You have to be Oyev Shalom, Beroidev Shalom, as that Mishnah in Pirkei Avos says, not just to be happy with Shalom, but you have to love Shalom and you have to chase after Shalom, because unless we do something proactive and aggressive, unless you actually realize that your neighbor who's a little bit different than you have to love him too. It's very easy. I don't know if you realize it's very, very easy to love someone who's exactly like you. Okay, maybe be a little jealous because you think it's you. But to like someone in your own group, in your own Beis Medrash, in your own yeshiva, it's pretty easy to love them. So everybody says, what do you mean? I love all my friends. Yeah, I know you love all your friends. That's very easy. The challenge is to love somebody who does something different than you. He doesn't look exactly like you. That's what the Maral is saying. Maral is saying that we live in a world of machlokes. And from the beginning of time, the world has been plagued by machlokes and division, as we see right away. The Torah of Parshas Bereshis, Cain and Hevel, the first two children in the world, they couldn't get along, right? Because once they were here, the default is to have machlokes in the world. And machlokes, as we see, has been destructive from way, way back in time. And what we really need to understand, we need to understand these two extremes. On one hand, we have to understand our Parsha, why Pinchas, the greatest reward in the world that he got was Shalom. And on the other hand, machlokes, which caused the destruction of a Beis HaMikdash, which we still suffer from almost 2,000 years later. So Nesivos Shalom explains this whole thing, puts it together beautifully. He says in Nesivos Shalom, he says, the purpose of this world that Hashem created is that everything and everyone should come to the realization of Ein Od Milvadoi. That's the job of this world. And this world is going to, before Mashiach comes, that's what has to happen. Everyone has to understand, Ein Od Milvadoi, there is no power, there is nothing else in this world besides HaKadosh Baruch Hu. None of us Nobody could do anything on their own. So the only schus for anything that you see around, for any plant, any rock, any living creature, anything in this world, the only zchus to exist is because Hashem wills it at that moment. Hashem wants it to be that way, that moment. And there's only one koyach in this entire universe. And any problem that we have in this world, it begins and ends when there's a crack in that belief. The world exists on, the world of completion will be Einoi Mulvadoi. But once we have a crack in that belief, when we think that we have separate powers of our own, that, Nesivos Shalom says, is called machloikis. Machloikis means separation. You have your power, I have my power, my boss has power, this one has power, that one has power. That's called machloikis, separation. We are not living up to what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants in this world. But when we all understand Ein Oy Milvadoi, when we all understand Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, what? Hashem Echad, that there's only one HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that is called Shalom. Because now the whole world is in agreement that there's only one power, and that is HaKadosh Baruch Hu. When the world is united, that we're all bottled to Hashem, and everything comes from Hashem, that is Shalom. So we ask the question, Pinchas received Shalom? That's the greatest reward in the world? He saved the whole Klal Yisrael. Hashem's giving him this tremendous reward. The answer we see from the Nesivos Shalom is yes. The bracha of Shalom, and the bracha of Shalom is the most tremendous reward that is possible. Machloikis and Shalom are not just events that are happening in the world. Shalom by Pinchas, Machloikis by Churban Beis HaMikdash. They're not just events that are happening. They define the entire purpose and the goal of this world. The world is good, the world is complete when there's Shalom, and the world is very bad and it's falling apart when there is Machloikis. So Pinchas was given the reward of what? Of Shalom, which is the purpose of the whole world. And now we can understand why. Yes, Hashem said, you saved the entire Klal Yisrael. I'm going to give you the reward, the ultimate way we're going to see the world. In Yemais HaMashiach, we're going to see everything together. Pinchas, that is your reward. And the Churban happened because of Machloikis. That's the antithesis to that. The Churban happened, we asked what? Sinas Chinam is only a lav in the Torah. The lav in the Torah, because of that, the Beis HaMikdash be destroyed. And 2,000 years we suffered through all the inquisitions and Holocausts and wars and everything. That all because of Sinas Chinam? Yes, because Sinas Chinam, when people don't like each other, when there's Machlekes in the world, the whole world is falling apart. It doesn't serve the purpose of what Hashem wants in the universe, which is everyone and everything together. Einoi Mulvadoi, Klal Yisrael, together as one. And Chazal tell us in Yerushalmi, Masechta Yuma, Perek Aleph, and this is something we have to remember, is Kol Shalei Nivna Beis HaMikdash Biyamav Ki'ilu Nechra Biyamav. We all like to blame it on the people from almost 2,000 years ago. All those people, they had Sinas Chinam, they caused the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash, they did this, they did that. We have to understand, Chazal telling us a very important lesson here, that if the Beis HaMikdash is not built this year, then we are at fault. It's as if we caused the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. Because if we did have the Avas Chinam, if we did come together, if we did have this beautiful thing of Shalom, Mashiach would come, the world would be complete, the world would be as one, and we would be Zoicha to be the generation to build the Beis HaMikdash. We have to remember that it's no one else's fault. It's our problem. We're coming up to Tisha B'Av in 2 weeks. It's our problem. We caused the destruction. So if we cause destruction, every one of us has the power to go home this week, make up with a neighbor, a parent, a friend, somebody that you have machlokes with. Hopefully it's nobody. But do something right. Bring it back together, and we'll all be zoicha to that beautiful bracha of Shalom.